Addiction is a battle that knows no boundaries. It touches the lives of men from all walks of life, regardless of age, background, or circumstances. Through our conversation today, we seek to create a safe and empowering space where we can openly discuss the struggles, the impact, and the path to recovery. Welcome to Unmasking the Man, the talk show that is dedicated to exploring the depths of masculine experience. So, without further ado, let's embark on this transformational journey as we confront addiction, unmask the underlying causes, and explore the pathway to recovery. And right about now, let me introduce the gentleman with me today. Of course, you've met Levi, you've met Cassis, and today, drum rolls, we have a new entrant. So the spotlight today is on none other than Chris. Karibu sana, Chris. Where are the drum rolls? Come on, guys.
Thank
You're
you.
making
We were the drums, eh?
I know.
Okay.
You're making Chris feel like.
Welcome.
He's welcome.
I hope you're not intimidated by our,
No.
Yeah. Good to have you on set, Chris. And of course, you are such a valuable asset when it comes to this conversation of addiction, having a lived experience yourself, having struggled with addiction, alcoholism. I think this is a conversation that we need to start from your point of view. So before I bring in these two gentlemen, let me allow you to briefly just lead us into your story in terms of some of the lowest moments for you in your journey with or struggle with alcoholism.
Thank you, Justus, even for having me here, and also for bringing this topic on air, because it's a pertinent issue in modern society, and the fact that it's affecting a lot of men, and when it affects men, then it affects the entire family and also the entire society.
Right.
For me, it was a 17-year journey, a traumatic journey, and I can say there were so many low moments. Starting with the loss of jobs. I lost my first job, and it was a well-paying job. I lost another job with the government. And of course, it was a job anyone would have liked, anyone who took the course that I took in college would have maybe dreamt of. And I lost it because of alcohol addiction. I lost my family. My wife left with my child, and I don't blame them, and I've never blamed them. And I even talked to her, and I told her if I were married to myself at that time, I would have walked out. And I even told her she was a bit patient, because she took all that time. She waited for some time before she left. So I crushed all the trust with my family, my mother, my dad. There was no trust. Burnt bridges with everyone, my friends and everyone. There was even at one point I was homeless. I was living in the streets in 3 towns: the capital city Nairobi, then my hometown Nyeri, and another town still. And that was after quitting the first job and the second job.
Right.
So I ended up in the streets, and at times I was even forced to have relationships with people, bar owners or barmaids, just to get a drink or to get somewhere to sleep. So it was a traumatic journey, and it has taken me 6 years to continue healing. Even now, I'm healing from some of the things that I went through. At one point in 2014, I felt it was too much. My wife was heavily pregnant, and I was feeling like I don't want to be this father who can't even stay with the coin in the pocket, who can't sustain himself, not even a family. And that's the time I attempted suicide. I had suicidal thoughts for a long time, even before that. But in 2014, I felt this was the time. I didn't want my son to find me in that state. I had tried so many things. At one time, I had walked into a rehab myself, trying to get help. But after detox, after 2 weeks of detox, 3 weeks of detox, I walked out, and I felt I was good. I relapsed, of course. So I had tried so many things. I had tried going to church, but maybe I didn't get the help that I required. So at that point in 2014 February, I remember I took poison herbicide, and I ended up in hospital for almost a month. I almost lost my eyesight, and I was told that I needed to start seeing a psychiatrist. Not even a counselor, a psychiatrist. I was told I was diagnosed with mental psychosis.
Yeah.
So I became a liar, I became a con, I became a thief. I could, if I were in a situation like this, at that time I would be thinking about where your phones are, or if there is a laptop. I'll be talking to you, but I would be calculating what I'm going to steal to go and sell.
Just to sustain the
To
addiction.
sustain the addiction. It was
Maybe,
that
maybe I can ask, these suicidal thoughts, were they there before addiction? Or are they is the suicidal thoughts associated with addiction?
it was associated with the addiction. At that time, I realized messing up, and I would look at my friends and they were okay, were drinking, having fun, and I started burning the bridges with the family. I started messing. I would drink and I would almost go crazy, yeah, you know, and I felt the stigma. The stigma started when I was maybe 20 years, because I was already drinking and sleeping in ditches and trenches. So even by the time I was going to college, by the time I went to the university, I was a mess. And I felt like I always thought at the back of my mind, if I don't get well, I have a way out. And that thought stayed with me for over 15 years.
Oh.
I totally understand.
So you survived through university?
Yes, I did, because I was taking a course in literature, and I'm a reader, and I'm also a writer. So most of the times, most of the courses required us to analyze novels, African novels, Caribbean novels. So I was good, and I would be doing that while having, nursing my hangovers, yeah.
I can completely resonate with the idea of suicidal thoughts in addiction, because I have had my own experience with addiction.
Okay.
I even wrote about it in my book.
Yeah,
I ended up in a rehab center in 2012. Is when I left that rehab center, and the idea of suicide is always the trap door, the last one, the way out.
Yeah.
Because by that time, everyone has given up on you. You've also given up on yourself. You've tried to get this thing in check, and it hasn't. One of the things I used to read in the Bible that would really resonate with me was the words of Paul when he says, those things I don't want to do, I find myself, I do them again. You tell yourself this is the last drink, but it's not the last drink. You tell yourself this is the very last time, let me do it, maybe because it's a Friday. This is the last Friday from Monday, I'm starting over. Monday comes, and then you have the last Monday. Yes. Tuesday comes, and you say,
The last Tuesday.
and yeah, it's always like that. I'm sure you guys have heard the story of the drunkard man. There's a story told about a drunkard man who woke up one morning, and he decided he wasn't going to drink anymore. And so he sat with an empty crate of beer that he had taken the previous night, and he started picking up the bottles one by one. And he was talking to them. He said, you're the reason why I did not... I
disagreed with my wife.
Disagreed with my wife.
Yeah.
He broke it. You're the reason why I lost my job. He broke it. He went on doing that, giving reasons, until he got to a bottle that was full.
Yeah.
And then he said, he looked at it. And he said, you are not involved. He put it aside.
You're not in this battle.
The willingness to quit is not there.
And of course, gentlemen, when we're talking about overcoming addiction, it speaks to one thing. If we are talking about overcoming, this journey started somewhere. How does someone get himself to a level of being called an addict? Because if we don't have that conversation from back to before someone gets into that level of addiction.
Let me jump right in there and tell you.
Yes.
Nobody ever drank alcohol the first time and thought, this is great. Even smokers, they would cough their way out. Everybody thought, this tastes funny, yuck. But then we actually had an acquired taste. You keep on tasting, it accepts you. Then suddenly you become a social drinker. So now you're drinking because you've gone to a cocktail party and there's some drinks you can have. You're still very much in control. You're able to take 2 or 3 drinks and go home, no problem. And then you take yourself to the point where now instead of social drinking, you start drinking on a Wednesday because it's ladies' night. You start drinking on a Thursday because, you know, it's hen's night. So you start drinking on a Friday because it's Friday. Next thing you know, you've been drinking Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Daily.
Now you're drinking on a Monday because, you know, there's traffic, so you need to wait it out so that you can drive home. You're drinking on a Tuesday because, you know, Tuesday, well, you know, the guys, it's just a moment of discussion after a hard day of work, blah blah. You're drinking daily.
Now, at that point, are you an addict?
At that point, you are already in the door, in the door of addiction. But you're
Yeah.
still in control because you're going to work.
Yeah.
You know,
Things are
so
working out
in
for
your
you.
mind, everything is still fine. You are going to work. You can function. You're paying your bills. You know, everything okay. And then the step takes itself to you drinking in the morning. Now you're drinking to kickstart yourself because of a hangover.
Kutoa-
At this point, you have already crossed into addiction, but you're unaware. You are carrying, you know, there's some ladies with handbags. They'll have a handbag in the office and it's got something inside. You know,
a quarter.
yeah, they're dipping into it. They'll have a, you know, the guy will walk around with a thing, you know. Next thing you know, you're at that point, and the first people to tell you that you have a problem are your own fellow drunkards. When people start telling you, you know, take that thing slowly. So-and-so is coming over here, he'll take this thing too, he'll drink it too quickly, let's, you know,
Red flags.
keep it cool. Those are the first guys to tell you, before even the house tells you. Of course, people will tell you at home, you are going to get into that whole thing of denial, and then it will start showing up at work. Suddenly you're late for work, your boss is noticing, you're getting a memo, you're being given a warning. Before you know it, you're full blown.
But at that time, what's going on in your mind as an addict?
I'm
Are
still
you
in control.
feeling you are in a
control.
problem, or you have not noticed the problem?
You haven't noticed. You see, there are stages, yeah? Like Levi is saying, you start with the experimentation. That is when you're in high school or maybe college. You go to the social stage. This is when you are drinking with friends and you're okay. You are maybe in control. But some warning signs are there. Then you go to what we call the instrumental stage. This is where now the alcohol is no longer for fun. It's as a coping mechanism. You, maybe you
need
have
it.
you need it. You have issues with your wife, and for you to go and talk to your wife courageously, you need that drink. You are supposed to make a presentation at work. For you to do it comfortably, you have to drink. You maybe your job requires you to do a show like this, and you have issues with the public. So
Maybe
you have to take a
anxiety
drink.
or something.
Yes, anxiety. So there are some underlying issues, and you realize, you discover the alcohol or any other drug is a self-medicating way. You can medicate yourself. So you move from the instrumental now to the habitual drinking.
Dependence.
Yes. Now the dependence and tolerance develop at that stage. This is where the drinking increases. For
Where
you
you
to
took
get
4,
the
you need
same
8. Yes.
For the same effect.
Yeah.
And then the dependence is it's not only physiological, it's not only physical, it's also psychological. Now you can't do without a drink. And if you even imagine that you can go home and face your family without a drink, or go home and stay in the house without a drink, you can't even contemplate that. Those are the people you talk to. If you ask them, why don't you drink? They ask you, then what? What will I be doing? They
Now,
can't
at that
even.
point, let me find out. If somebody is there, are they savable at that point, or is it getting too late? You know, I'm just wondering, because somebody must be watching us,
Yeah.
who is at that point where
It's getting too late, let me tell you. And it's getting too late because even your basic functions are disappearing. You know, alcoholics, when you're in their addiction, the complete addiction stage, what he's talking about there, you're so dependent right now. Even bathing is a chore.
Yeah.
You know,
feel tired.
Even making your bed is a chore. Everything is a chore except you getting a drink. If you can walk into an alcoholic's house and it's dirty, like you know, the curtains are drawn, you want darkness all the time, you know.
Smelly curtains.
You don't want to see light. You're already in a very deep, dark place, and then you've isolated yourself from people. The only time you reach people is when you want something from them. The moment you get it, after you've made up your stories, like he was talking about, after you have, you know, killed people, your relatives, and, you know, in quotes, and said, oh, you know, you want a fundraiser for this or that, you then retreat immediately back into your cocoon to have your drink. So at that moment in time, you are at a very, very deep, dark
But unfortunately, Levi, that is almost the stage where I think, even as a church, we begin to almost warm up into the idea that, oh, this person needs help. We are so much detached to the world of addiction that it takes us so long, almost
We notice when it's late.
when it's late.
That's when we notice.
The problem is what is happening, like Levi said, it's gradual. And it's not even happening physically, it's happening in your brain. You see, alcohol or any other substance affects your prefrontal cortex. That is a section of the brain that is concerned with your executive functions, reasoning, judgment, inhibitions, memory. So that's why you hear about cases where people don't bathe because they are not reasoning. If you ask them, why make my bed and I'm coming back in the evening?
To the same bed.
Yeah. Why make, if you ask them, why are you not working? Why work and get 500 shillings? The money is not enough. So I better stay here and just wait for somebody to buy me a drink. Why drink and the doctor has already told you that you have an elevated liver? And we are going to die. You see, the reasoning, and there's somebody maybe who used to top their class in high school or even in college.
Yeah.
And you even right now, you go to the village or even you go to the estate and you find guys who used to be the sharpest in your school and you find them asking for 50 shillings or, begging. And you wonder what happened. It's because the brain rewiring happened.
Wow.
Yeah. But by the time you're saying the church, by the time that guy is there, by the way, the world also has shunned him.
Yeah.
Even all of us will shun alcoholics because even if he was the guy who was your repairman, you no longer need him because you've seen him. Now he does his repairs, and he comes to your office or to your house drunk. You don't want him at home. He's already shunned big time.
And we are very entitled.
Yeah, he's shunned by the wife already, he's shunned by the brothers. He's already a recluse. So him retreating even further is even more likely to happen and to go completely. And incidentally, a lot of addicts don't make it. You know, that's the other thing people don't talk about. Even the rehab facilities people go to. The staggering facts about even rehab moments is that only 15% of people who go to rehabs actually come out.
That's the issue.
A whooping 85% do go down the drain. They relapse, and for many of them, they end up dying in their addiction. The idea would be to get them before they get there. And for those of us who can tell this story, really glory to God that some of us are able to come out and even talk about it. But there is a mass majority that does not get the chance.
They don't survive.
Yeah. Talking about support and all that, because do you feel, Pastor Kesis, that as a church you have done enough to be able to create an environment that would, reduce this issue of alcoholism, addiction in general? Or if not, what are the challenges?
I think you can't go to war with an enemy you don't understand. And I think many of us in the church don't understand the enemy of addiction. If I'm told that one of my elders or deacons is drinking, the first reaction, standard church reaction, is he is bringing embarrassment
To the church.
to the church. So let's save the image of the church. So how do we save the image of the church?
Excommunicate.
Visit him, excommunicate him, publicize it, tarnish the name. Even though there is a very good process in the church manual explaining how church discipline should be done, many times out of anger and disappointment, and maybe in the process we had issue with that person maybe. So this becomes an opportunity to settle issues. The brother could even be a pastor. And so we say, out. And so by doing that, the church looks good. Now he is there, the bad guy, and here we are, the good people. Yet that step will not help in saving that person. And most likely that person has been drinking over time while amongst us.
Yeah.
And if we were keen enough, like brothers and sisters, where our relationships are genuine enough, we would have noticed. Number two, if the brother in church didn't fear that telling me that he is drinking, then he would have told me and would have helped much earlier. But you see, there is this fear that if I made a confession here today that I drink alcohol at least twice a week, the most likely next course of action is to disengage from work.
Yeah.
Does that help the alcoholic? No. It makes the situation worse. So I think we don't understand the enemy, number one, and we are so concerned with saving the image of the church as if the church can exist without people.
And yet we must be so alive to the fact that it is not something far removed from us. I cannot tell you how many children of church elders, pastors, I have personally worked with on matters addiction. It comes home. It comes home. And we need to be alive to that very openly, because you know what, we are living in a world where our children, who when they go out to the world, they don't have a, some holy tube walking around with them, buffeting them from mixing with
They are
other
not
children.
insulated.
They're not insulated. They, they'll mix with other children. They'll get to see what's happening, and sometimes they'll be just as curious as many other people out there.
Right.
It's time for the church to change that approach entirely and relook at these issues. In fact, if you look at the African setting, especially in our own country, even here where we come from, addiction has reached a point where it's like what we used to say about HIV. You are either infected
Or affected.
or affected.
That's true.
All of us can point out a cousin, a brother, an uncle, an aunt who is an addict today.
Yes,
Right,
yes,
right.
yes.
And my friend, addiction is, of course, we are talking about alcoholism because its manifestation is, vividly before our eyes. But there are so many other forms of addictions, and time might not allow us to go into all the details of addiction and all that. But I just want to point out the fact that yes, there are forms of addictions that will be visible physically. You can be able to tell, oh, this person is struggling. But there are other forms that, we might not, for eternity be able to even detect, from a third party. And Chris, you have been on quite a journey. When you were just trying to get yourself out of one addiction, you got yourself hooked into the other. Briefly, if you can spend the shortest time to lead us into that particular issue of your addiction or struggling addiction with betting.
Yeah, you see, when we talk about addiction, of course, most of us look at substances, drugs and alcohol, but we have two classifications. We have the substances, then we have what we call process or behavioral addictions. Those are things that you do, behaviors like gambling, sex addiction, shopping. There are some who have eating disorders and addictions. So after I quit in 2017, after I quit drinking, when I started my recovery journey, I really wanted to get back on my feet financially. And that's when the betting craze, the football betting craze had started. And there were betting platforms all over. And then I had started saving money. When you're not drinking, when you're not wasteful, you have some money. Then I was told, even with 50 shillings, you can win a lot. So I started small. And then I was told, for you to win big, you have to invest. Invest. So I asked, so with 500, you can even put in more. So I even started doing my research. And sometimes I would not even do my job. I used to work on a website. I would not do my job. I would focus solely on the betting. I would do research and all that. So at one point, I even found myself using over 10,000 shillings on a single bet, expecting that I would get maybe $1 million or something like that. I was trying to get back. I was trying to overcome the stigma that had followed me all the years that, I had lost my job, I had lost a lot of maybe potential. So I wanted to recover everything and to impress the society. But at the end of the day, I got hooked. I got hooked. Remember, I had not even worked on the underlying issues that had led me into alcoholism. Now here I was struggling with another addiction. Wow. Yeah. Wow. And then you never tell anyone, not even your spouse. Your spouse is there. She's asking, where is the money going? What is the problem? Yeah,
and then you're no longer drinking.
There are no jobs, they have a problem with this tender or this, you lie. For every addiction, with every addiction, lying is involved.
So, gentlemen, we have just a few seconds or minutes to end this conversation, unfortunately. But I think we'll create more time so that we can genuinely be able to address all the issues that we need to. I want to ask Levi, from your own experience, because you have struggled with addiction in the past. How does someone who is in that stage of addiction come out? What are the practical steps that one can begin to take in the process of trying to find a solution?
The number one step is recognizing that you need help. And that's a big step. In fact, that's, I would say, 50% of the step right there. It's just a recognition that this thing is not taking me well and I need help. Too many of us don't get to that place where we can recognize that we need help. And you have a lot of pointers that can tell you that you need help. You know, if you woke up this morning and you don't remember what happened last night, that's a sign. That if you woke up when you have, used more money than you should have used up, that's a sign. If you woke up and you, have had a quarrel with your wife, with your husband, with somebody that you really love out of nothing, and this thing has been going on, if you woke up and you have to depend on this thing to get your day going, those are signs that you have a problem. You must recognize it.
Right.
And in recognizing it, then you must now see that you need help. And let me tell you, there is help out there in so many ways, in so many fora, even with the gentlemen who are speaking here, even out there. There are multiple ways to get help nowadays. Thank God for social media. It's possible to reach addiction counselors, to reach places that can give you help. It is possible to get out. That's what I can tell you, but recognize that you need it.
Beautiful. Pastor, your final thoughts as you respond to how the church can be more involved in providing a solution.
I'll go back to Genesis chapter 4, where Cain made a very bad claim. He said, "Am I my brother's keeper?" I think if we were genuinely close to each other, we will identify when somebody is sleeping, and then we can rescue them before they completely slide off. Right. But because we have fake relationships in church, hello, Brother Justus, how are you? But we are not really close, It's my churchmate, it's my churchmate. But do we really know each other? Do we care about each other? Would you know what I'm going through? I think if we became a genuine fellowship community, we can help much more. I'll leave it there.
So thank you so much for your time. I hope that this particular conversation has made a difference in your life, and you have an active role to play when it comes to overcoming addiction. You don't have to be directly affected, but if you know someone, please, there's something you can do. And I like the words of Chris that there's hope. Looking at the two, there's hope. See you again next time.